Hello and welcome to the special edition of pre-budget program of DD News, Sabka Budget. As we all know that the budget is one of the major important activities of the Government of India, which determines the direction of business, industry, trade, commerce, agriculture, almost all the sectors. And we all know that it affects each one of us, me, you, everyone. So that is why it is Sabka Budget. And we have come here today in Kolkata, one of the famous academic institutions, Indian Statistical Institute, to have this show from Kolkata on the expectations from the Union Budget 2016. We have with us Professor Obirup Sarkar of Indian Statistical Institute. We also have his colleague Professor Shoubhik Roy of Indian Statistical Institute. We have Mr. Anil Vaswani representing the eastern region of CII, and we have also have Mr. Timir Boron Chatterjee representing Bengal Chamber of Commerce and Industries. Welcome to you also. And we have a galaxy of young students of the Indian Statistical Institutes, and we are also joined by the faculty members. At the outset, I must thank the director of the Indian Statistical Institute on behalf of DD News for allowing us to do this program. Thank you. And straightway we come to Professor Obirup Sarkar. I would like to request you, sir, to elaborate on the premise of this year's budget. Professor Obirup Sarkar, sir.
Thank you, Snehashish. Budget, if you just look at it, with a sort of simplistic mind, it's an account of expenditure and income of the government. Now the question arises as to how this statement of income and expenditure reflects important economic activities of the country and gives out important signals. Well, the first thing that would come to one's mind is the question whether there is a balance between income and expenditure. If not, then we are heading for a deficit. Now, let me just spend a few words on the deficit. This year, we all know that the Central Pay Commission is expected to implement its recommendations. So that itself involves a lot of expenditure on the part of the government. And
if I'm allowed to interrupt, there is another thing on the public expenditure, which is OROP, one rank, one pay, if it comes this year. So these two will add up.
Yes, two will add up. So the government will have to, bear the burden of all these, things that are coming up. And when we talk about expectations, one wonders how the government is going to meet this extra, expenditure. Now, of course, one way to meet it is by increasing taxes, which are not very plausible, given that the government wants to give incentive to the industrial sector. Increasing taxes on a large scale is not very plausible. So, and the other option is borrowing. Then again, I would say that that is not very plausible because the government is already burdened with a lot of public debt, and the interest burden, the interest the government has to pay back to the government bondholders, that is quite a bit. So I think the government would have to resort to the third alternative, namely increasing the supply of money. Now, once the government increases the supply of money, that is going to be inflationary, and that is going to affect you and I. So overall, I think the budget, at least I expect, the budget would comprise of two things. One is giving more attention to the poor, to the welfare sector. And the other thing is that not intervening too much in the industrial sector. Now that, apart from other things, that would involve a steady tax policies. Finally, one of the main problems of the Indian economy right now is non-completion of projects. If you look at the banks, banks are burdened with huge non-performing assets. And one of the reasons banks have so many non-performing assets is that projects have started but were never completed. And once a project stops, the investor is no longer in a position to pay back the loans.
Sir, I will come to you on that score once again, but what you have said rightly is that the strengths will be on social sector, and the ease of business will be maintained so that there is less interference to the industry, because everybody is for industrialization, and there is a little bit of apprehension from your side for inflation. We all know that 60% of our population is related to agriculture, and we have already seen the government's trust on agriculture, especially the tenant farmers, that they have to be brought under social net, crop insurance. As sir has already said, that stress will be there on rural sector. So I would request Professor Shobhik Rai to elaborate on your expectations on the agriculture sector, sir.
Hi, thank you very much for this opportunity. So first, let us take a look the last year's budget and its allocation to the agriculture sector. So 25,000 crore rupees was allocated for the infrastructure, and 5,000 crore allocated to the irrigation system, and 8.5 lakh crore is targeted actually to give the credits to the farmers. So firstly, you see, it's very hard to calculate the exact figures because we don't know. If we have some idea, if we think that something is needed to be done, but we don't know exactly how much it's going to cost. But at least we can immediately expect or estimate that what are the things that need to be done, and we can have some estimate that to what percentage it needs to be increased. For example, if you see till the independence, and I mean it is quite common, we all know that in the agricultural sector we don't have much development. Yeah, we still very much dependent on the natural calamities. So the output of the agriculture sector is very much dependent on the natural calamities, so you don't have a control on that. But we know science now has developed many
and dependence on monsoon also.
Yeah. So all these natural calamities. I mean, I also call monsoon. That's also I call it some. It's not a calamity, but it's uncertainty. So we have some control on that. So and also science has already developed many machineries, many things which we need to adopt. And for example, first thing, irrigation system. We can do a lot. We can have a lot of control on this by improving our irrigation system. And only 5,000 crore rupees money was given to the irrigation system last year. And I think, again, I'm saying that it's just an estimate. It's very hard to compute the exact figure. I think it should be somewhere around 25,000 crore rupees. It just is a very rough calculation. And that is because we need huge improvement in the irrigation in our irrigation system. And also for the infrastructure, if you see, we need a lot of machineries. Agriculture depends a lot on the machineries and fertilizers and all these things. And there too, it is very common for us. We all know that there too, a lot of things can be done. Even the countries abroad, they are doing a lot of things which we don't have. For that also, we need a lot of investments there. And one good thing that is that the 8.5 lakh crore rupees that was targeted to give credits to the farmers. But till now, it is not completely implemented, and that is very much. It is very much important that instead of allocating more money or something, we at least implement this target that 8.5 lakh crore rupees will be given to the farmers. So, given all these things, there is a lot of things that can be done to improve our agricultural system.
So your thrust is on rural and agriculture sector, including the farmers' incentive and the crop insurance and everything. So that will be, the network will be broadened. That is what you are expecting. Thank you, sir. After agriculture, obviously we'll go to industry. And industry, and especially as agriculture is a major factor, whole of India and especially in Eastern India. And industry and Eastern India is to be discussed on a different platform, and especially on a startup note, as the government has highlighted this startup units. And let's see what Mr. Anil Vaswani, representing the CII, has to say, especially on industry, particularly on Eastern India, and again, especially on the startups. Mr. Vaswani.
Thank you, Snehashish. Well, the first thing is, obviously, we'll start talking about industry. We'll come to the startups in just a minute. The last couple of years, we haven't seen the type of industrial or the type of capital investment in infrastructure projects that we were expecting to see. There's a lot of potential, there's a lot of promise, but things have been very slow for the last few years, and that's had an effect on the economy. This is basic Keynesian economics, right? You need to pump more energy into the cycle to get the wheel turning, and the biggest prime mover of that would obviously be government spending, whether it's on rail, whether it's on road, whether it's on irrigation, whether it's on power. These are very critical things that you have to start. So the point is, we know what has to be done. We just haven't seen that much money coming through the pipeline into the field, getting on the ground. And this is what we're hoping, that this budget will kickstart the growth cycle one more time by getting that investment done. So what are some of the things that we would expect to see in this budget, that industry would like to see in this budget, which would ensure that you have sufficient funds to be able to make those plans happen? So first of all, Psu Disinvestment. We started that. We've seen something happening in the last few years. We would like to see that revived and carried through and pushed. You have a lot of money that can be unlocked, a lot of tremendous value that can be unlocked from some PSUs, and this will really boost the government. And one more point is very important. I think it may have been covered. You need to widen the tax base even further. We've done a very good job of direct and indirect taxes, and I know that...
yes, Mr. Vaswani, with this cue which you have given regarding the tax
Correct.
base, but definitely, yes, there is a school of thought which saying that there are so many Indians but very little taxpayers. It is a question which will definitely come for discussion, but before we discuss something on the tax, definitely what comes to our mind first is the GST, goods and services tax, whether it is going to happen in this session or what kind of impact this is going to create in this year's budget. We have Mr. Timir Baron Chatterjee, a tax specialist.
GST is likely to be implemented. I am not sure whether it will be implemented from 1st April. It is not possible. Probably from 1st October. Or something like that. But one thing is very clear, GST is coming. Now, question is that what is GST? And how it is beneficial to the people like us, to the industries, to the consumers. Today, if you see the tax structure, it's a very complicated tax structure in force. I'm talking about the indirect tax structure. In two ways we collect tax, government collects tax, that is called tax by the central government, taxes by the state governments. Under central government, there are 3 taxes: excise, customs, and service tax. It gives around 14,50,000 crores to the central government, as per 15-16 estimate. States, they have several taxes. VAT is there, sales tax is there, purchase tax is there, entertainment tax is there, amusement tax is there, entry tax is there, octroi is there, electricity duty is there. So several taxes are there. Is it the way of doing business? It cannot be. And each tax has its separate law, each tax has its separate rules, each tax has its separate compliances. This way, the industry cannot grow. It is not ease of doing business. We are confused. To ease this, all taxes, both in the central segment and state segments, excepting few ones, will be subsumed, and it will be known as GST. That means you need not to know whether it is a goods or it is a service. This tax will be applicable even if you go to the hotel, even you go to the hospital, even you go for buying any material. Same rate, same classifications. Secondly, today we have one country, different markets. Why? Tax rates are different in different state to state wise. If you go to the Bihar and see the tax rate in cigarette, and if you see the tax rate in cigarette in West Bengal, you will find totally different. So there are 29 states, 29 laws, 29 rules. Under GST, there will be uniform law, so that you know what is the rate of tax. So one country, one market. That is the most important thing. Third, under GST, the tax rate will come down drastically.
Chatterjee, in this connection, the implementation of GST, what we have been hearing, the states have been demanding for some kind of support, subsidy.
Yeah.
And what is your take on this?
I will tell you what is this. Under GST, GST is a consumption-based tax. That means where the goods are consumed, that state will get the revenue. Today, it is a origin-based tax. That means where goods are produced, that state will get the revenue. But under GST, it will be totally changed. So what happens? In India, there are 3 states who are basically origin-based tax, where goods are actually manufactured. That is Maharashtra, Gujarat, and Tamil Nadu. So this origin-based tax revenue will come down. But those are consuming states, like West Bengal, they hardly manufacture anything. If you see what you consume today, you will not find even 10% you use which is manufactured in West Bengal. So it's a consuming state. So under GST, these consuming states like Bihar, Odisha, West Bengal, Assam, their revenue will go up to a significant level. You must have seen that although there are political differences in certain states, but those consuming states are supporting GST because they know once GST is introduced, their revenue will go up to a significant level. Today, West Bengal gets revenue only in respect of materials which are originated from West Bengal. But where is the origin? Where is the industry? All materials are coming from Mumbai, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu.
Well, Mr. Chatterjee, with this, we end this first round of our panel experts' expectations from the budgets, and we take a short break. Please stay with us. We have more experts' comments on expectations, and we have the students of Indian Statistical Institute, Kolkata, waiting to share their expectations.
माँ जी दवाई।
एक इम्पोर्टेंट मैसेज, सेट टॉप बॉक्स लगाने की आखिरी तारीख निकल चुकी है। तो आप टीवी सीरियल्स कभी भी बंद हो सकते हैं। नहीं।
कौन सा सेट टॉप बॉक्स लगवाए?
सिंपल, सेट टॉप बॉक्स मतलब डिश टीवी, क्योंकि डिश टीवी है 10 करोड़ लोगों की पसंद।
डिश टीवी के साथ अपना मनोरंजन खुद चुनिए। पैक सिर्फ 99 रुपए से शुरू। सेट टॉप बॉक्स मतलब डिश टीवी।
These days, it's important to have an updated resume. Here's mine. Praful Kumar, Major Praful Kumar, Para Special Forces. 3 years served in a hostile zone. Tough assignment. Special service in J&K. Made some friends there. Combat free-fall specialist. Willing to shed blood. As you can see, I wear my heart on my sleeve and my resume on my uniform. Which other company lets you do that?
We are India's most exciting workplace, and we are making you an offer. The Indian Army. Live a life less ordinary.
उंगली थाम के जिसने चलना सिखाया, कड़ी मेहनत करके हमको पढ़ाया, हमारी खुशियों को अपनी खुशी बनाया, जिंदगी के हर सुख दुख में जो एक साया बनकर साथ रहे, ढलती उम्र में इन्हें अकेला ना छोड़ें। ध्यान रखें, माता पिता एवं वरिष्ठ नागरिक भरण पोषण एवं कल्याण अधिनियम 2007 के तहत माता पिता की देखभाल करना हमारा कर्तव्य है और उनको बेसहारा छोड़ना एक दंडनीय अपराध है। सामाजिक न्याय और अधिकारिता मंत्रालय, भारत सरकार द्वारा जनहित में जारी।
नीचे
काकी, घर में शौचालय कहाँ है? बहू को
घर में कहाँ, खुले में ही जाना पड़ेगा।
फिर तो तुम घूंघट भी खोल ही दो। एक तरफ तो आपको बहू का घूंघट भी सरकाना गवारा नहीं, और दूसरी तरफ उससे खुले में।
इस तरह तो हमने कभी सोचा ही नहीं था।
तो अब सोचो, घर में शौचालय बनवाओ और इस्तेमाल करो।
स्वच्छ भारत मिशन, एक कदम स्वच्छता की ओर।
जहाँ सोच वहाँ शौचालय।
धीरे धीरे सब जान गए हैं कि हम जैसे बिना MRP, वजन और यूज बाय डेट लिखे हुए पैकेट गलत हैं।
हाँ, तभी तो कोई हमें अपने साथ नहीं ले जाना चाहता है।
उम्मीद मत छोड़ो पैकेट भाई, कोई तो होगा ही जिसे दुकानदार चाचा बेवकूफ बना लेंगे।
सही पैक पर वस्तु की कीमत, वजन, निर्माता कंपनी का नाम तथा इस्तेमाल की तारीख जरूरी है। आप बताइए, आप जानने वालों में से हैं या बेवकूफ बनने वालों में से? जागो ग्राहक, जागो।
सब लोग जाग रहे हो तो सोने चली आई?
थोड़ा आराम करना चाहती हूँ।
आराम करना ही सिखाया तेरी माँ ने? हाँ?
तेरी दीदी का फोन आया है।
ये लोग ताना देते हैं, कहते हैं कि तेरी माँ ने तुझे कुछ नहीं सिखाया। दीदी, आप मेरी तरह कमजोर ना पड़ना। आप अभी पुलिस को फोन करो।
प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ विमेन फ्रॉम डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस एक्ट 2005 के अनुसार महिलाओं पर शारीरिक और मानसिक उत्पीड़न कानूनी अपराध है।
I really like cars. So just 2 weeks into the job, they gave me a company car. A big company car. It's got 14 wheels and quite the ground clearance. It can go pretty much anywhere. But it's not the easiest thing to park. The acceleration is decent. The handling is shaky. The engine noise is deafening. AC? Well, you can't have everything. But you know what? I love the gun.
We are India's most exciting workplace, and we are making you an offer. The Indian Army. Live a life less ordinary.
Welcome back to the Kolkata edition of Sabka Budget program. We are here in the Indian Statistical Institute doing the pre-budget program Sabka Budget on the expectations of budget. Now, it is for the students to express their expectations from the budget. We will request some of the students to share your expectations. Please.
Every time I go out of the ISI campus, I see waste material dumped on the roads. I see open drains, and the entire hygienic condition is extremely poor outside. Now, as has been quoted during the discussion about smart cities and waste management systems to be improved and the entire wave of the Swachh Bharat campaign. Now, my point is that this is a very micro level issue that penetrates into every lane of a city, every corner of a government school. So I wish and I expect that this issue receives sufficient coverage and sufficient importance and financial coverage, given the severe implementation constraints. Since it's a micro level issue, this will have implementation constraints. And definitely as economists, we know that poor hygienic conditions and diseases lead to lower labor productivity, which ultimately hampers the GDP growth of any nation. So that is a point that I really wish the government should pay attention to and give more importance.
It's an extremely relevant question. But the question is, the finance minister sitting in Delhi may not necessarily be particularly interested in the, condition of the hygiene outside ISI. So very true. I'm sure there's definitely major initiatives that are taken at the top level, right? You're talking about, say, for Swachh Bharat, we need so many crores more to, build toilets in all the villages and all that. That's very true. You're talking about what about outside at your own doorstep? That is something where I personally feel that that's something where you need more personal activism. But at the budget level, sure, there are major policy decisions that are taken. At the end of the day, it's people like you who will have to come down to the grassroots level and implement at a micro level, and you are going to be the person who makes a difference.
India has gone up in terms of in the rankings of countries in terms of ease of doing business, although it was a very low increase, and we are expecting an increase in the government expenditure. Plus, government claims that we are we'll move further up in the rankings. So I would expect that the budget, from the budget, that there will be incentives from taxes, especially for the startups. Plus, I would expect there would be a boost in the Make in India campaign, which I feel is still in its infancy.
Add his inputs as well. So yeah, I mean, I forgot to, I was going to actually talk a little bit about startups, but I think we didn't get around to it. There's a tremendous energy that is there in the youth of today. I mean, not necessarily, startups don't necessarily have to be youth, but a lot of you today, after getting out of this institute, may probably want to go and, think of, you have an idea. It may be something very simple, it could be something very complex. The fact is, by Startup Stand Up India, the scheme that you have today and the funds that are going into it to make it easily accessible for you to, to start up your own business, that should make a very big difference in the, at the grassroots level, starting up businesses in India, in, getting more people involved in businesses. And I think it'll contribute, I think, initially in a very small way, but this is a tremendous movement which I think can only get larger and larger and only snowball. And as far as Make in India is concerned, I think already many big things have started happening. For example, in the defense sector, there's a tremendous initiative that whatever India is going to, warships, tanks, major defense expenditure, 30% of that has to be in this country. You have to build it in India. So, for example, you have very large, big corporate houses have already started up their own separate defense business, strategic business units. I know the Tatas, the Mahindras, there are, and to name so many more. They've already started up their own defense sector units. This is going to pump in a lot of money. It's going to save a lot of dollar expenditure as well. And at the same time, it's going to build up a lot more new industries in India which did not exist previously in the past. So yeah, it's an exciting time.
I'll just tell you that For startups, I think in this particular budget, certain provisions are certainly coming. So far tax exemptions are concerned. It will be like SEZ type. Like for SEZ, we have first 5 years 100%, next 5 years 50%, next 5 years 50%. So 15 years tax exemption is there. It will not be there to that extent, but we expect certain tax exemption scheme in this particular budget. The Mudra Bank, which was set up in the previous budget, they have already disbursed 1 lakh crores. 1 lakh crores to the startups and others MSMEs. So lot of financing are going on, tax benefits are going on, ease of doing business are also going on in a phased manner. But I think it will certainly create a positive impact in the economy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chatterjee, for your wish list. Definitely, we know that the startups will have some kind of consideration, and one school of thought is saying that if you have more employment, then you are going to get some reduction of the tax. So that is another area which may come up. Thank you very much for your valuable inputs. Yes, we go to the students. Yes, next.
According to the 2001 and 11 census, the unemployment rate in India went up from 6.8 to 9.6%. And as of today, there are more than 84 million Indians who are educated, literate, but are unemployed. So we are seeing a lot of spending in various education schemes like Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan and many others. So what can we expect from this budget so that the education schemes can be directed more towards employability?
Well, you see, the government a few years ago embarked on a program called Make in India. I'm just referring to that because Make in India requires people who have the right kind of training or expertise to produce goods which can compete in the world market. Now for that you need education. So if you want to employ people meaningfully, you need a pool of well-educated youngsters. And for that, the government needs to increase its allocation to the education sector. Unfortunately, last year, the allocation to the educational sector actually went down. So I would very much expect that it increases.
Yes, Mr. Vaswani, you would like to add?
I just wanted to add on to that there is a distinction between education and employability. They may sound very similar, that education leads to employability, not necessarily. What you need to do is also invest in skill development, right? There's a lot of people out there who may have a basic degree, but there's a certain types of jobs and there's certain types of skills that your basic education will lead you up to a certain level. But what India needs is, certain specific types of skills also to a certain extent. In the villages, for example, you need lots of things. You need taxi drivers, you need car mechanics, you need plumbers, you need, the basic skills. Maybe you don't have so many of what you need. So you're producing a lot of MBAs, you're producing a lot of maybe, statisticians or mathematicians possibly, that's a good thing. But at the same time, you also have to look at the practical employment and the conditions that you need to create to get people with the right skills in the right places. That's very important. You have jobs, they may not necessarily get filled because you don't have the people with the right skills to fill those jobs, even though those people are employed. So it's not a direct answer to your question, it's more of an observation. This is a critical issue.
Thank you, Mr. Vaswani, for your observation. And the mantra is the self-employment and entrepreneurship is not only depending on the service. And there are certain skilled jobs which are there, but we don't have people. So thank you. With that, we go to the next question, please.
So my question is to the gentleman who talked about the GST bill. Professor Subramanian Swamy, who is a BJP leader, he has proposed an alternative to the GST bill. He said that the government does not need a parliamentary amendment. He could just reduce the excise tax to 21 commodities, and this would achieve any required changes without the bill being passed. I would like to hear your thoughts on this.
Thank you for the question. So for tax, so for taxes are concerned, that is all right. But the main intention of the GST, which I expressed to you, or I told you, that the subsume of all taxes and complexity of the indirect taxes will continue. That cannot be reduced. We want ease of doing business. Think about that. There are 17, 18 taxes are in force. 18 taxes, compliances are there. And it is a cost of compliances. Mind that indirect tax is a collection of tax and payment of tax. It is not the job of the company to collect tax and pay to the government. Doing nothing, getting nothing. The job of the company is to basically manufacture and sell and make profit. So today, for compliance itself, we are spending a lot of money. Litigations, compliance complications. So how you can expect FDI will come with such specific laws? And every country, if you go to the developed country, even in Bangladesh also, you will find GST.
So the consolidation and the simplification of the tax regime is the mantra of the day. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. We go to the next question. Yes.
Sir, from the viewpoint of the government, is it possible that a slight cut in income taxes can be substituted by an increase in environmental taxes?
No, income tax is different, environmental taxes are different. Environmental taxes are not there, but it is there in other form. When you get go for taking the environmental clearances, when you do any business or any manufacturing setup, you need to take environmental clearances, pollution control clearances, whatever it may be. So for that particular matter, you need to pay a specific amount of money to the state government or central government, as the case may be. It is not in the form of taxations. But I understand there are some green products and there are some seen products. So it was the proposals that seen products should attract more taxes. Like you know, the cigarette industry suffers a lot of taxes. So that is already there. There are seen materials like alcohol, spirit, drugs, cigarettes, all these things, for which heavy amount of taxes are in force. And that is why you will find that cigarette consumption is coming down by 3 to 4% every year. So that is already there. Income tax is totally different. Income tax rate will not come down, as I have told you, excepting the corporates, which we expect that corporate tax rate will come down. Because it has been seen that if you have a reduced rate of tax, compliances are more, collections are more. Today, income tax collections is around 7,98,000 crores. And indirect tax is 6,50,000 crores, which makes to 14,50,000 crores only from the tax revenue. And 2,22 lakhs we get from the non-tax revenue, which makes to 16.50 lakhs crores is the total tax revenue. That will be there, and there will be certain changes.
Hi, sir, my question is regarding bullet train project. Sir, I know, we all know that in all the countries where bullet trains are running, they all are in loss. But is it not the better option that we reduce the taxes on air flight tickets? And as we all know that flight tickets are so costly because there are a high tax on those. And if we reduce the taxes on flight tickets, then the flight tickets will be low cost, will be available on low cost, and in this way we will expand airways network. And this.
Well, can I answer a little bit of that if it's okay? You've got a couple of points. Yeah, I agree. I mean, in this country right now, you've got so many basic problems to solve that, building an expensive bullet train connection between city A and city B, which is going to take up, I don't know how many thousand crores, may not be the correct, correct use of your funds when you have so many other pressing problems: basic education, free education for all, basic sanitation, basic, so many basic infrastructure which is still a long way from being perfect. So I do agree with you partly that, I mean, not partly, I think I do agree with you that, I mean, this is more of a, glory project, that you want to do it just because, you have to show it to the world that we can do it. It may not necessarily be the best thing to do. And I'm sure we have economists here who will be able to highlight that better. The other point is, though, however, that when you have a tax on, say, airline tickets, for example, which is what you mentioned, right? The tax is being used for a purpose. It's actually like an airport. Part of it is an airport development tax, which is actually being used to fund the growth of new airports, which will make a more resilient and robust airline, airport network across the country. So the tax is not being just, taxed for the fun of it. It's not that they just want to make you pay more for your tickets. They want more people to fly. Sometimes you have a lot of uneconomical routes, for example, in the northeast or something, or even certain rural, smaller towns and cities where you need to connect them. But so those have to be subsidized to a certain extent, and that's what your tax is partly paying for, subsidizing and making those routes viable.
I think, Mr. Aswani, it's the connectivity which is the main concern. It's whether you are surface or you're flying as a time and connectivity. That's the ease of business, and the people want to go faster. Yes.
My question is regarding the research, the R&D budget. Like, I think the government fixed some budget for the research and development. So now, how the government is thinking about a need-based research that the Western countries are thinking about?
I'm not in favor of regulating research, frankly speaking. If you look at the history of scientific research, the person who is doing the research has some fundamental questions. He or she just wanted to answer those questions. He or she didn't have any, usefulness, within quotes, of his research in mind. But later on, it turned out that these fundamental researches led to tremendous innovations, which had implications for our everyday life. So as far as research is concerned, I am all in favor of giving full freedom to the scientist. You can't dictate the scientist what to, research on. Of course, you could, in a very, restricted way, you could tell a scientist to, find out the implications of what is already known. But if you are really wanting to put emphasis on research, I think you should put, you should give the scientist full freedom.
Sir, I just want to add one thing, that corporates are to take a pivotal role in the areas of research activities. And of late, they are started taking the actions, and the government has come out with a specific proposals that those who are registered under the Ministry of Science and Industrial Research, they would get a certain specific benefits in the tax concessions. So by and large, all major companies, including the foreign companies, have taken necessary approval from the Research and Development Department of the Ministry of Science and Industrial Research for this particular purpose. So
I think, Mr. Chatterjee, you are mentioning to that section which gives 125% tax.
Now it is 200%.
200% tax exemption for research and development.
35 to
yes,
LB section.
35 to LB. Yes. You have a question?
I have a question about the recent trend of the oil price reducing, but the government imposing the import tax for. It is my question that government is imposing the import tax as a whole. Whenever we purchasing the crude oil, the government should need to segregate it or separate it, this imposing of the import tax for poorer and the richest person. I think the government should need to separate this tax, particularly import tax. Actually, the farmers, those who are using the diesel in the farm area, they should need to more and more less price than the imposing the imported tax. So, what about your opinion?
See, the one problem is that when diesel is being imported, right, you cannot guarantee the use it will be put to, right? You cannot really say that this diesel is going to be used by the farmer and this diesel is going to be used by someone who, has a Mercedes Benz and, would be using this diesel to run his car. So, a priori, you cannot make a distinction. You don't know. So a better scheme would be to give a subsidy to the farmer. You have a uniform price of import when you import it, and then you give a subsidy to the farmer. That would be a better way of targeting.
Exactly, sir, what you have said is that whoever is the more needy gets the more subsidy, and whoever can afford and get the market prices. Thank you for your input. Sir, you wanted to ask a question?
So my question or query is like that, whether the government is going to increase the budget allocation for health and...
Okay, thanks for the question. Let us come to health sector first.
So let us take a look at the last year's budget. So government has proposed 5 AIMS, All Indian Institute of Medical Sciences, in Bihar, Assam, Tamil Nadu, Himachal Pradesh, and Punjab, I think. But as you all know, at least the way what we can see that we don't see any progress there, till this point. But things take time. Okay, we can expect one such institute in West Bengal, but even before that, the money government already has spent on this health sector is, to my estimate, is already sufficient. If you compare it with the money spent the year before the last year, then it has increased already in the last year's budget. This year, I again expect it to be increased, but I think the money that is already allocated is not being used properly. So it can also be regulated. Only one thing I have personally felt, and many people also think, that the pharmaceutical industries, they didn't get enough attention last year's budget. So they expected some tax exemptions and everything, but that didn't happen. And this year also they are asking the government for some tax exemptions or something, these pharmaceutical companies. That's the only thing. So in my opinion, in the health sector, in the relative to the amount spent on the other sectors, health sector is getting so relatively what it was getting for last couple of years, and government also has proposed certain AIMS and certain other things. Of course, it can do better, and I personally think whatever it has done, first it should be implemented. For the academic education, firstly, there is again a lot of money spent there, but the monitoring is a huge problem there. We all know that the money that is supposed to be used by the students, by the Sarva Shikha mission students, or for their midday meal and so on, they hardly actually been used by those students in the proper way. So, but again, as it is already discussed, that government in the budget can allocate only money, but how it is, they cannot completely control or monitor the complete process. That requires other things. So again, summarizing health, education, we have something, we first need to ensure that whatever we have, it is used properly, but adding to that, law and justice and enriching the life of women, it requires much more investment or whatever, allocation by the government. I would expect the government to invest more in this budget.
Yeah, I'm going to raise $1 million question. What will happen to the central sponsored schemes? Let me get a clue from the earlier budget. It is about saying 8 centrally sponsored schemes should be delinked and 24 to be run with a shared pattern. So most of the states are in a financial distress. Neither they can sponsor infrastructure. So if it's a matching grant sort of thing, what will be the consequence of central sponsorship? This is the first one. The last one is about the DBT, the direct benefit transfer. Central government had done it for 23 districts in India, but not covering kerosene, then food products and so on, rice, or wheat through PDS. So I would be happy if DBT is extended to other states and districts, including about food items and kerosene and fertilizers.
About centrally sponsored schemes, we all know that there has been a change in the stance of the government. Previously, the government used to dictate exactly on which schemes money is to be spent, and money would come from central government scheme. When the government faces the possibility of another election, it has to be populist. Now, question is investigation and this and that. So the incentives are very, very, pervert, so to say. There is no punishment for not doing anything, but punishment for trying to do something, so to say. So I wish the budget or the government in general would come up with some new incentive schemes which would induce the bureaucrats to work more efficiently.
So I want to mention 3, sectors where
states are likely to pay minimum alternate tax. Although law says that SEZs are eligible to get 5 years, 5 years, and 5 years tax exemptions. So because of the export problem, that export has reduced significantly. This December month, export was 26 billion, December 14. And in December 15, it is 22 billion. So to give thrust on the exports, I expect that the tax of MET, MAT, minimum alternate tax on SEZ, will be withdrawn. Then I expect that individual tax rate will not be changed, but there will be certain benefits on medical expenses. Today the exemption limit is 15,000. We expect that it will be increased to 20,000 rupees. Corporate tax rate, as I have told you, it is expected to be reduced by 2.5%, that is 27.5%. And the export-related benefits today, there is nothing by the domestic tariff area units. All benefits have been withdrawn. Now exports are very important. You must have seen trade gap has increased manifold. So therefore, to boost exports, certain income tax exemption benefits are expected. In the indirect tax front, we expect that the service tax exemption limit of 10 lakhs will be increased to 20 lakhs. That is our, so therefore many service sectors will come out from the net of the service tax. And then in the indirect, in the negative area, which I am expecting today, because the tax law of indirect tax has to align with the GST, and the GST exemption limit is 20 lakhs maximum. But in case of excise, the exemption limit is 1 crore 50 lakhs. So in this budget, I am expecting that the excise exemption of 1 crore 50 lakhs will be reduced to a significant level, so that once GST is introduced, there will not be much problem.
I think with this note of what GST can do for all of us, we need to conclude our program. Thank you very much for sharing your expectations from the budget, our panel of experts, and especially to the students and the members of the faculty of the Indian Statistical Institute, Kolkata, for sharing your expectations. Thank you very much. I thank Professor Shanghamitra Bandopadhyay, the director of this institute, and Professor Pradipto Bandopadhyay, the dean, for encouragement and allowing us to hold this session of this program in the Indian Statistical Institute in Kolkata. Thank you very much. Namaskar.